Let's start with the agenda. So the first we have that panel discussion, and today's panel discussion is about how to drive innovation in big organizations. And we have three distinguished guests joining us. I'm honored to have these guests joining us to discuss about their vast experience on innovation in different organizations and also in the ones that they're working at the moment. So please let me introduce our three panelists. First we have Rashmi Kasat-Majakorpi. Please join the stage. Rashmi is the VP and Head of Digital Business at Metso, and Rashmi has also been the founder of the Digital Garage at Metso. Please, Rashmi, have a seat. Next guest is Ilari Kallio from Konecranes. Ilari has a long history on working on innovation front, and at the moment he's working at Konecranes as a CDO. Welcome, Ilari.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, we have Jonas Hagner. Jonas also has an interesting background, and I'm really hoping to hear a lot of interesting stories from his past roles. But at the moment, Jonas is working as a CTO for Posti. Welcome, Jonas. Good. So we have a fairly open dialogue between the panelists and the audience as well. So feel free to ask questions from the panelists during the session. But we'll start with the audience questions. Innovation is a word that has a lot of meanings, and there's a lot of different perspectives on like what does innovation mean. So if somebody says to you in like innovation in one word, what would you say? What is your perspective on that? And I'll just start asking you, so Satu.
Good target. So my perspective perhaps to innovation is coming from the human angle. For me, innovation is always something that creates or enables new behavior. Innovation just kind of adding more pixels or different types of pixels is not innovation. Mm-hmm. It's just technological enabler that may be innovative, but the true innovation actually enables new kinds of behaviors.
Yep.
But it can be also with old technology. So for me, innovation is really what is the behavioral outcome or what comes out of it as a human capability or behavior.
Excellent. Yep. Let's go on this side of the stage. Emma, what does innovation mean to you? Sorry, I'm just surprising people now.
To add maybe to your previous comment, I truly agree that it's always some new behavioral, but also innovation, I see it as a sparkle and something that you can't immediately like touch. It's something that is gonna move us somehow.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's have one volunteer. So who wants to open up their thinking around innovation? Raise your hand.
So I'm presenting Business Finland here, and this is mainly my personal view, but I would add also on the market or in use. Because I think in Finland we have a lot of IPR and a lot of innovation in the closets that never gets to the market or in use. Yep. So in the word innovation, there's always that, it's used after it's innovated.
Yeah, excellent answers. So we have a lot of like customer centricity, actual use of innovation, not just the innovation for the closet. But technology wasn't really mentioned that much, which is actually it's quite nice to hear. I was expecting a lot of like technological innovation. Great. Well, let's start the panel discussion. So dear audience, why is innovation important for organizations? Maybe we start with Ilari.
Should I take them?
Yes.
Important because renewing the organization all the time. So everything that if you don't renew yourself and you stay put, then eventually you are dead. So I think all the time innovating and renewing yourself and improving all the time in your core business, but also in your in the areas that will be the next core is really important.
Yep. Rashmi, anything to add?
Yes, in our industry, we operate in traditional mining and rock breaking industry, so in this industry now customers are asking more for less, more productivity for less energy consumption, less water consumption, less dust emission, less pollution, less noise emission. I think you get the point that you have to deliver quite high productivity for everything less. So where does that come from? That comes from innovating.
Yeah, efficiency innovation is one part of innovation domain.
Yeah, of course, looking from if we call it our industry, then which is facing really heavy disruption at the moment. So basically, our industry is dying, the traditional post. So considering what's happening in the world and how digitalization is actually affecting the world, I think there's high demand on companies being able to answer this rapid change. I think disruption will happen. It's happening in logistics now. It's happening in banks. It's happened in travel agencies. It will happen. Probably hit traditional manufacturing after it's gone through logistics. I think in order for companies to be able to meet whatever the disruption is going to be, I think innovation is one of the key elements. Design, customer focus, UX focus, so on is really key elements in being able to face the change that's happening in the world and in consumerism.
Yeah. The speed of innovation or the disruption is increasing all the time. And we see that a lot of new companies are entering into the market and disrupting the established companies. And that puts, like you said, it puts a lot of pressure on established companies. So Rashmi, how are you guys organized around innovation at Metso and Autotech now as well?
Well, we'll become Metso Autotech in about 6 months and we'll know better how we organize then. But for today, it is organized. I see that there are basically 4 pillars how we drive innovation. One is the traditional R&D, no surprise. It's responsible for technology innovations. The second is the new introduction 3 years ago as Digital Office, which is a group function who is driving digital capabilities and digital strategy of Metso. The third is there were 2 baby introductions later after the Digital Office. One is something that I lead myself, Digital Garage, which is about rapid prototyping and rapid experimentation. And this is very important now in our industry to, because you were talking about disruptions coming from here or there behind your ears. So you have to really be prepared. And then we introduced also an innovation lab who does non-digital, if there is such a thing also, innovation. And in our industry, there is because of mechanical and chemical aspects of things. Last but not the least, we also have this annual Metso Award Innovation Challenge, where we reward people for coming up with new ideas. And the novel ideas get even higher prize.
Okay. So it's centralized, and the business units are then utilizing the centralized innovation arm to kind of
It's hybrid.
Hybrid, yeah. How about the Konecranes? How does it in Konecranes?
Yeah, similar approach, different areas. So traditional R&D, we have a long history of how to collect ideas throughout the organization and get them forward. Innovation contest using students in early stage, and I think the core innovation process is relatively stable and works quite well. I think the area that we have been looking, especially on the digitalization area, is more the enabling technologies and which makes kind of the business processes work better. So how to innovate in this enabling area, but then the most difficult and where we have a lot of focus today is the new areas, kind of a new business incubation and how to incubate and drive those type of initiatives, which is the way of working is very different. It's more validated learning type of thing, and you need to have a lot of good ideas. But then, how to do that and how to scale them up if you find something good. That's the, I would say, the newest area that we are very much focusing nowadays.
Okay, Jonas, any need to add?
Yeah, so basically, I think we're structured a little bit differently. We don't have a digitalization strategy as such because we already have business units who are making money, sort of doing digital commerce, very heavily linked to e-commerce. So in our business units, especially in e-commerce, we have sort of a design team who are responsible for design. So of course, doing a little bit of marketing here. If you want to go to our box concept on Keskuskatu, you can go there to see how we sort of try to combine the physical and the digital and find the synergies between physical and digital. They're responsible for design thinking and design in Posti overall. Then we have sort of innovation labs internal. They're also run heavily by business. We have accelerators on innovation heavily run by business, and the part that I'm sort of responsible for, we call it actually pivoting within the company. So that's more taking known concepts in the world around technology and seeing how we can fit that and solve business problems within the company. So I run sort of the pivoting part where we focus really heavily on technology, bringing that in, but we don't take anything cutting edge. We have to see that it actually works outside of the world. And for us, it's really easy being in logistics because you have Amazon, you have these players who are actually doing quite a lot of stuff already that's difficult to compete with. So we just pick the most suitable stuff for us and bring it into true design thinking, true sort of piloting and prototyping, and then piloting up to scale.
Okay. So the focus of, I've been discussing with a lot of Finnish and also like Nordic customers in the beginning of the year, and this topic of the discussion has been a lot around on like where do they focus on their innovation? Is it the core business, on sustaining the core business, or is it like exploring more like radical ideas and seeing new business opportunities? Ilari, like what is the perspective at Konecranes around this?
Maturity is in the core business. If you understand the core business, like in the business that you are in today and the current customers, the current industry and around it. So definitely the maturity of the innovation happens there, and I think that's a right way to do, because that's the playground that you know, and that is the business that will finance all the rest. So but it shouldn't be 100% there. So at least in our strategy, we in digital domain we start from the core business. There are a lot of things that we can do there to improve our internal capabilities, ways of working, efficiency, and what we can offer to our customers, but then gradually shifting also to more to the new areas. So.
Yep. Okay, Rashmi.
Yes, I think we also have the similar, because it's again the mining and rock breaking industry, so you are not going to go away very much away from the core. There's a certain way you extract valuable metals from the rocks, from the ores, and that is not going to change very much. Hasn't changed in last 2,000 years. So there is potential, but there is still that core. The message to us has been from the top that we do innovations protecting the core, but then we also find sort of the beyond the core what we can, and that's the experimentation part.
Yeah. What about Posti? Posti has been quite explorative on certain areas.
Yeah, I would say that sort of course, we have our core business. A lot is around core, but since we're undergoing a lot of transformation at the moment, I would say that the focus on innovation is actually to deliver the strategy. So wherever the strategy is moving, whatever we're trying to achieve, then innovation, of course, is a tool to achieve that strategy. So it's more around the strategy bit. And that there's of course core business elements, and there's different sort of new business elements within that strategy. So it's much more orientated around strategy, and of course we have to be able to course correct depending on what's happening in the world or around us quite. So we have to really be able to course correct quite fast. So that's why it's not just the sort of assigned or attached to the core business. Of course, they're still prominent and they're still important, but we're undergoing so massive transformation. So we have to be able to do a little bit of course correcting now and then.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So, Rashmi, what is the role of customer in your innovation process?
I think they're at the center because at the end of the day, when we bring those innovations out of the closet to the real mine sites, they need to work there, and they need to be safe, and they need to be environmentally as friendly as they can be, given the nature of our business. The safety aspect is the key aspect. It's above everything else, and zero harm is what we are aiming for. So in an industry like this, you have to always start with the customer before you even start to look at technology, already in the design phase. And then when you take these ready solutions to customer side, then you have to have a good plan together with the customer. How are we going to, manage basically the testing part? So customers are, I would say, involved from design right up until the scaling and the using part of it.
Yep.
Customer involvement. Our advantage, I think, is first of all that we have a lot of people in the front line, like service engineers, 11,000 around the world every day with the customers. So that's an easier part how to get that feedback and how to capture the kind of needs of the customer. And then the other easy area, which I think people don't always remember, is the engineer to order business that we is very big part of our business, project business, where you design according to the project. So that's very customer centric in a way, because you only start the design when you have the order, and it's customer has a very big impact on how the design will be and what type of a solution. So it's kind of a outcome of the sales process, the whole engineering project. And then, but then in some areas, it's in big organization, it's not always easy to get to the really close to the customer and have a really good service design approach and rapid validation with customers, because they might be physically very far away or organizationally very far away, and that's an area that we are investing more nowadays. That how do we get that cycle much faster and shorter, that there are no middle hands in between.
Sort of customer experience is probably one of the key drivers in what we do at the moment. And of course we're building also physical space where we can include the customers or the consumers sort of in our design processes. So I think that's a really key driver in how we work. And for us, looking at this, because we look at more from the innovation from the enterprise perspective from my side. So of course the customer experience is paramount, and of course we drive that to generating better quality, generating better experience, and also we focus nowadays very heavy on the employee experience, because we of course driving good employee experience we think will drive a better customer experience as well, because we also have a lot of people out in the field. So if you can make their work sort of as easy, as efficient, as expedient as possible, you theoretically leave more time for them to face the customer or the consumer out in the field. So that's becoming a really key driver. So we think these sort of drive each other basically around. So
yeah, okay, interesting points. Jonas, let's continue with you. So what are the biggest obstacles for innovation in a big organization?
That's a tough question. So looking at this from sort of the pivoting perspective, I think pivoting is a little bit easier because you can already prove that there is some inherent value in what you're doing, what you're starting. You can actually showcase things quite early and say that, okay, these companies have solved these type of problems with AR, these companies have solved these type of problems with with AI and so on and so forth. So that's a little bit easier. Of course, in all of these cases, it is a little bit of a leap of a faith for a company to start adopting technology like this. So I think that to get to a point where you have the trust in companies so that you can take this leap of faith, it's always it's challenging. Of course, the culture in the company, I mean, it needs quite a lot of change. You need to have an adoption around fail fast. You need to be able to try new things. You need to have different ways to look at the traditional business case. You need to still have a lot of trust. You need to have funding within the company so you can do these things. So I would say that trust is one of the main components that you really need to build up in the company. And then you, of course, have to have the traditional heavy leadership support in this so that you're able to move towards this direction and get things into play and be able to sort of challenge yourself, because in the innovation, you quite often challenge your original thinking, what you have, you sort of shift, there's a change in the status quo somehow. So you need to have the mechanism so you can drive this change in status quo in. Of course, once you've done it, then it starts to sort of be self-propagating the model. But I think trust is probably one of the key elements you need. You need good people and trust, I would say.
Okay. Ilari.
Maybe couple of things.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe a couple of things comes to my mind in a large corporation. First of all, that how do you, if you are not in being disrupted at the moment, so how do you still keep the faith and have a courage to invest to new things and do things even you don't really have to do it. Yep. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the resources part, and that's kind of a twofold. It's a luxury and competitive advantage that big companies have a lot of resources to do things, but it's also a risk that you have too much of it, and it shows in a way that you can do things that are really not important, and you have a luxury of not doing things fast and validating all the time. And we just had a yesterday final event at Maria 01, where we are one corporate partner, and we took few our project teams there to learn how startups are doing their innovation and development, and with the idea that you really need to focus in the early stage, making sure that you do the right things before you start to develop, validating your problem and solution with customers or stakeholders or whoever they are, and making sure that you are focusing on the right thing and do that in a really fast phase. And I think that's the downside of big organizations, that you have a luxury and you don't have to move fast and you don't have to be focused. You can a little bit divert, and which makes big companies slower in a way.
Rashmi.
I think these wise guys have already said most of what I would have also said, but one thing, the biggest obstacle in any biggest big corporates and large companies is this doing one of the triangle of I see it in my head as a triangle of art, science, and commerce. So the art is the creativity, the science is the technology, and the commerce is taking it out of the closet to the market. And if we start to do too much of any one of these things, the triangle is going to be skewed, right? So you need that equilibrium in the triangle, basically. You need to have enough creativity, you need to go enough after technology, and you need to then make money out of all of these things. And if you start to do too much focus on commerce, you're not going to be too creative, and the other way as well. If you're too creative, you're going to be sitting in the, basically with the things in the closet. And then if you're going to run too much after technology, there's left out creativity and there is no commercial thinking. Yeah. So for me, it's an equilibrium.
Yeah, that's a good point. Rashmi, the culture is really important for innovation in an organization. How do you recognize in a company whether the culture is really supporting innovation?
Recently, there has been a lot of research and talk especially in corporations, traditional corporations like ours, about psychological safety. I think that's happening also in your kind of organizations. So having a safe environment where people are encouraged and rewarded to, take ideas, bring new ideas forward, and to experiment and what you said, fail fast. I personally think it should be fail cheap because, if you start to put 100,000 euros in failing every day, the company is doomed to fail, pretty much. So you have to fail cheap and let people fail cheap and reward them for the learnings. And the second thing there is important is it's nice to have all these nice ideas and everything, but there also needs to be a certain level of maturity in the organization to take these ideas forward and to follow up with our customers. Are these really being useful? Are you making money? Can we make more money or not? So again, equilibrium of the triangle, basically.
Okay. We are running out of time, but as a last advice for the audience, what would you guys say? What would be the key takeout of when they go back to their own organization that regarding innovation? What should they think about? Ilari.
Yeah, don't wait until you have to do something. Start today.
That's a good one. Jonas.
Yeah, I would say that, try to learn as much as possible from what's going on around you and sort of take the good learnings from other companies, even try to steal the good people from other companies who've been doing this for a while. I think that's kind of a key learning for us, that you have companies who've been doing this for longer. You have sort of methodology around this that you can sort of adopt quickly. So I think that again the people are quite a key element in this process. So if you have a lot of good people who can drive this change, who can sort of showcase quite quickly that it's value here, then it makes things quite a lot easier. So,
Rashmi.
I would use the hashtag stop talking, start doing.
That's a good one. Thank you all for valuable insights, and let's give a warm hand for that.